Well, hey guys, this is Matt with 42 Pros and welcome back to the channel. Today we're starting a new series on how to get started with Final Cut Pro 10. I've been asked a lot here recently on how to get started using this editor from a lot of people through forums and just different Facebook groups and all this fun stuff and just meeting new people. They've always asked me two things: what editor do I use the most, which is Final Cut Pro, and how do I get started using that editor? Just a lot of similar questions have been popping up here recently, so we'll go ahead and dive right in and start a new series on how to get started with Final Cut. And without further ado, let's jump in. As you can see, I've got Final Cut Pro pulled up already, and for the most part this will be the generic template that you'll see. Okay, it may actually look like this, which you'll have your viewer window, which is right here, your browser window, your libraries, and this is where you can stay organized with all your clips and folders and all that fun stuff that you'll be importing. Down here is your timeline, okay? And that is where you'll be clicking and dragging or adding to the timeline to create your story, your project, the final product of what you're trying to get accomplished, okay? Now up here at the top, you'll see a couple buttons. This one will specifically disable the browser window and the libraries window, okay? This one will disable the timeline, and then this one will be your inspector window, okay? Now there are some shortcuts for that we'll talk about that in a later video, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And if they have already posted, I will come back to this one and add them to the cards, okay? So definitely pay attention to the cards up at the top and out on the end screen, okay? All right, so this button here on the far left is for your libraries, and you can just disable your library and keep your browser window open so you can see your clips, and it kind of gives you some more real estate to work with if you have a bunch of clips that you're going through, like say for a wedding or TV shows or some kind of big adventure project that you took 3 or 4 days to film. That can be helpful to add some real estate to your window, to what you're looking at here, so you can work a little bit quicker, okay? So if it's your first time opening up Final Cut Pro 10, then up here will be a library, probably a smart folder. I think that's the default. And then you'll have one event. Now the library itself will probably be untitled, and that's just the default because Final Cut don't know exactly what you want to call it yet. So if you want to change it, just highlight it, hit enter, type in what you want to call it, and then hit enter again. It's important to label and stay organized, so get in that habit now. So when you start working on some bigger projects, if you haven't started already, then you'll be able to stay organized and you can find your footage and the clips that you need a whole lot quicker. Okay, so it's just like the libraries, the event will be the date of which you opened up Final Cut for the first time, okay? So if you started a new library, then you will probably have untitled library and the date of which the library was started, okay? And the two differences here, as you can tell, the little icons here, the libraries have 4 little squares with 4 little stars, okay? And then the event has 1 square with a bigger star in it. So in here is your browser window, as I mentioned before. And if we select this little clacker looking device is your icon, your thumbnail for your project file itself, okay? So I'm going to hit Command 4 to open up the inspector window, okay? And again, you can change it by hitting the slider button there. And just so you can double check your project settings, you can click on the I, which is for information, and you can see that this is a 1080 at 24 or 2398. And it's got the Rec 709 color profile, okay? So if you want to change any of that, whether it's the sample rate, or if you want to change the rendering file type, or the resolution, frame rates, all that fun stuff, change the name, all of that stuff, you can do it here. So let's go ahead and import some stuff real quick. So we can go to File, Import, Media. All right, and if you look, there is a shortcut, and I promise you, if you start learning shortcuts now, it will speed you up dramatically later, okay? So if you are coming from Adobe, then remember the shortcuts that you use in Adobe, and then later on, as we get into it, you can assign custom functions to custom shortcuts that you can create, so you can literally copy the Adobe shortcuts and put them in Final Cut, so it'll help you out so you don't have to go back and forth from the two different shortcut I guess keys that you do for different things, you know. All right, so for me, I'm going to hit Command I. That brings up your media import window, and this is where you can find all your goodies. Okay, so just for example, we're going to go to a week-long project that I filmed for some TV shows, for a TV show, I should say. And in here, we're going to find some time lapses. Okay, so we'll just select these two. Okay, all right. Now, if I just want those two to be imported, then I can hit Enter, or I can hit Import Selected. And before I do that, I want to check a couple things. Okay, if you're importing it for the first time off of an SD card, then it will automatically default to the Copy to Library. Okay, all right. If you have it saved already into a file somewhere on an external drive, then you may want to leave the file in place. So you want to leave it where it's at and not make a duplicate copy and import it into your library folder structure. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to leave it in place because I got it on a couple external drives. And this is where it can get pretty fun, and we'll get into this more in depth later, but you can transcode stuff. So if you have an older or a slower computer that doesn't have all the beefy specs inside, then you can create some optimized media, which will help you with your workflow when you start working on your timeline. And if you have some really big files, like say the new H.265 codec from the new Mavic 2 Pro, then you can create a proxy, which will be a smaller resolution and a compressed file version of the original. Okay, so if you select that button, it will create those proxies, and you can work with the proxies. And then when you're finished and you're finally done with what you think is a good project, then you can switch it over to the original and then export it later. Okay, so let's hit Import Selected. Okay, and you can see the two files here, and there's a couple different ways we can view it. Okay, we can view it with the file structure system, or we can do the thumbnail system. All right, and that is simply done by clicking this tape button right here. Okay, if you look at the movie tape button, then you can change the thumbnail size. Okay, and you can change the duration. Okay, so you can see that this time lapse that's selected here is longer than this one. Okay, so that's a beneficial feature if you're looking for a couple different things in your projects. Okay, so also you can select waveforms. Now in here, these are time lapses. They don't have any audio, so let's go in and find something that does have audio so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so let's just do this one. All right, so I hit Enter to import it, and now you can see that there is audio connected to it. Okay, so you can see the difference between this one and this one. Okay, you got the audio waveforms right there. If you hit play, you can see what it looks like. Okay, all right, so let's add one of these to the timeline. Okay, so since I have already added this previously, it did not render, but when I add this big long GoPro file, you can see this dotted line up top, which signifies that, hey, this clip needs to be rendered before you export it. Okay, and here's the beautiful thing. When I do this and take my hands off the computer, you can see that that dotted line is starting to disappear. Okay, it's rendering for you in the background, and that is a beautiful thing that Final Cut does for you. And yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons why I like Final Cut, in addition to it being user-friendly as far as a visual standpoint, because I'm a very visual kind of guy. All right, so say this is all we wanted to use. Okay, all right, and we can trim it to get it to our specified length. Okay, we're like, yeah, okay, let's go and share this video. Okay, so if you've satisfied with what you got on your timeline, up at the top right is a little share button. It looks like the same thing you do for your iPhone for email and messages and all that. Then when you hit it, and this is the first time that you've shared anything from Final Cut, you'll probably have about 5 maybe 6 different options. One of them will be the master file, which will be pretty much the default to go to. YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook. You may have 1 or 2 of the Apple devices shared to an Apple device, and you may have the email option as well. All right, so for now, we're going to do master file. Okay, this is where you can name it. Okay, this is also where you can select either video only, audio only, or both. And you can select what type of file, which you're pretty limited to it right now, to whatever you want to export it to. So for now, we're going to do H.264, which will give you a QuickTime .mov file. Down here at the bottom, you can see that it will export it as a 1080 at 2398 MOV file, and this is the estimated file size. Okay, so let's hit next. It'll bring up this window, and you can still rename it again if you want to, but this is where you can find the specific folder that you want to go to, and then you hit save, and it will start exporting that file for you. Now, I'm not going to hit save because I don't need to do that, but voila, you have now started and got the foundation of Final Cut Pro 10. Okay, so definitely look in the description below, because as the new videos post and it talks about different things, whether it's manipulating your clip, or doing color, or working with the audio, or staying organized and working with keywords and folders and all this fun stuff, definitely pay attention to the description below on every one of these videos, as well as the end cards and the cards above. And yeah, you'll be able to find the shortcuts to get over there to what you need to get done and what you need to look at to learn more about Final Cut Pro 10. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, definitely hit that thumbs up. And if you're just now getting started, or if you're coming over from Adobe Premiere and you want to learn more, then definitely hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be notified every time that one of these gets posted, and you won't have to look for it no more. Okay, but again, guys, that's all we got for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to always get the gear that's right for you, because only you can do your projects. And since we usually only have one chance to get it right, why not do it right and just do it once? Till next time, guys, we'll see you in the next video.